Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, sometimes we get these statistics. It happens with CPI as well, and the feel on the ground is different than what the statistic is. And certainly recently where CPI was kind of low, but the feel on the ground was that the things people were buying were going up at a faster rate than CPI. Now, I admittedly come from one of the highest unemployment states from California, but you know, the feel on the ground is, as much as these statistics, or the main statistic here is good, feel on the ground isn't quite as good at this, at least where I come from. And one of the things I wanted to ask about is, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but whereas the unemployment that we talk about percentage drop from 8.5 to 8.3, that the widest measure of unemployment, which includes discouraged, marginally attached, and part-time people who would prefer to be full-time, actually increased slightly, but to 23.8%, if I have my numbers correct. So what does that mean, or how does that happen? So the sort of headline number went down, but the broader number went up.
Well, the widest measure that BLS produces we refer to as U6, which does include all of the marginally attached and the part-time for economic reasons. And that's at 15.1% in January as compared to 8.3% for the base unemployment rate. That was unchanged in over the month, the widest measure.
Okay, so that was unchanged, but the other went down. So that means that maybe some of these people who became employed as part-time. Is that what that means? Or and what, by the way, what does marginally attached mean?
That means workers who want and are available for work. They've looked in the last year for jobs, but they haven't looked in the last month.
They've looked in the last year, but haven't looked in the last month. Okay.
They need to have looked in the last month to be counted as unemployed.
Okay, so they're not, I see. All right, so they aren't employed, but you don't count them in the number that includes the 8.3.
Correct.
Okay, so on the broader number on the broadest number, and I read the wrong number, but 15.1% of the population is the broad number that is unemployed or underemployed with the part-time, and that didn't change from last.
Correct. It has declined pretty much in step with the decline in the regular unemployment rate over the last 5 months.
Right, okay. And then the total workforce, civilian labor force, was actually up, was it? Mm-hmm. But the and so the total labor force was up as well. Is that right? I'm trying to understand, because you do on this sometimes, as we know, that the numerator and the denominator of unemployment drop when people drop out of the workforce, and it makes it look like we're doing better, but we're actually not employing more people.
Well, over these 5 months where the unemployment rate has come down 0.8%, the level of unemployed has declined by 1.2 million, but at the same time, the level of employed from the household survey is up 1.7 million. So the sum of those is the labor force. So you've got the unemployed subtracted from the employed, and you get a rise in the labor force of about 500,000 over this time period.
Okay, thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.